Well, we got a lot of great questions that just keep coming in. We got questions today on the effectiveness of certain kinds of baits. How much does a bear weigh when it's live versus when it's field dressed? Some on bait location and some on trail cameras and solar panels or cell cameras. Some on the effectiveness of camouflage, and lots of good questions today, so we got to jump right into it. You know, I can only answer a few of the questions that come in. I started doing this question and answer video because so many people would email me and contact me on Facebook and text or whatever, or leave comments on the YouTube videos, and I'm just overwhelmed with questions, and I feel bad that I can't personally answer most of the questions. I can answer a few of them, but it's just kind of overwhelming at times. I get so many questions, so this series of videos is a response to that, and some of the questions that you're going to hear are ones that I get more often than others, I guess you would say. The first one I have here today is how effective are oats in bulk as a bear bait, like a feed bag of 55 pounds. What about corn? I'm just wondering if they're good or not, because it can help save on cost. Is there anything we can do to improve the appeal of these specific types of grains? Okay, I got a pretty strong opinion on this because I've used these items, and I'll tell you a story. Years ago, I was running baits and I found a pile of bear crap. I mean, there's a big pile of scat right by my bait, and it had oats in it, and it was the grain oats. And I thought, well, I wonder if somebody's baiting with oats nearby. Or turned out I found an oats field that was about 3 miles away, and I didn't realize it at the time, but bears can, I mean, 3 miles is nothing to a bear. So I don't know where that bear ate the oats, but the grains were still intact, and they were in the scat and undigested. And within a few days, that pile of bear scat with the oat seeds in it started to sprout and grew up into green oats plant. So if you're expecting whole oats to meet the nutritional needs of bears, it's probably not going to happen unless they're actually spending the time to chew them up to get the nutrition out of them. I think the same is true with corn, where I don't think corn is as likely to go right through their system because they're more likely to chew the grains of corn. And I've actually seen outfitters that use corn. I've used corn, and I've found in the fall that bears will only eat corn when all of the better bait is gone, and then they come back and then they'll eat the corn after whatever trail mix or whatever else you're using is gone. Then they'll go to the corn. But I also know outfitters that use corn and rolled oats in the spring, and the rolled oats seem to be pretty good, especially if they're like a granola where they're rolled oats that are sweetened. And then corn can work really good in the spring. You have to remember that bears don't have as much natural food options in the spring, so they're more likely to eat things like corn and oats that are available to them. But I know some outfitters that use corn and dump used fryer oil in the barrels on top of the corn, and it's pretty effective for them. So yes, corn and oats are not that great of baits in the fall when the bears have a lot of other options available to them, but they're pretty good in the spring. Hope that answers your question. How much more does a bear weigh live weight than it does when it's field dressed? And the answer to that is 17%. And you might think that's kind of crazy that I just threw that number out there, but I'm going to tell you something. It was about 12 years ago that an Ontario bear biologist told me that he had weighed several bears live and then field dressed them and weighed them again, and in every case it was 17%. And I thought, well, there's a lot of variables, you know, different sizes of bears, different amounts of fat and stuff like that. So now I haven't done this with a lot of bears. I'm going to say it's less than 10, but I think 6 or 8 bears that I've actually weighed prior to field dressing them and then weighed after field dressing them. And believe it or not, in every case, it was 17% difference. And in one case, I thought I was going to prove that theory wrong because I had a bear that was just super obese. I mean, it had 3.5 or 4 inches of fat all along its back and on its hips. And I thought, this is going to be an anomaly because this bear has so much fat on its outer body just below the skin. So we actually weighed the bear before and then field dressed it, and the difference was 17%. And that's when I realized why that number's so accurate, is because when they have a lot of fat on the outside, they also have a lot of interior visceral fat, I guess you would say. And when we gutted that bear, there was gobs of fat all around its organs and everything like that. So 17%, that's the number. Question number 3, have you used solar panels with cell cameras? Are they worth it? What about using them at bear baits? And so I have started using, I got a couple of solar cell cameras, the Moultrie with a little solar panel that fits right on top of it. And the first thing I'll say is it's amazing. I literally never have to worry about the batteries in these cameras. They're in areas where they can get a little bit of sun. One of them's actually in full sun. The battery is just always at 100%. It can take pictures and videos all night long, and the battery's just right back to 100% during the day. So I literally never have to go walk up to that camera because it's sending me the pictures, and I never have to change the batteries. So I'm pretty impressed with that. I think there's areas probably with a heavy canopy of trees where it might not be that effective. And as far as using them on bear baits, I have not done that and probably won't, because I'm almost certain that those solar panels are going to have tooth holes in them within the first few days. It's just too obvious to the bears that it's something sitting there that they've never seen before, and they're going to go over and bite it. So I have not used them at bear baits and probably won't. Plus, you have to keep in mind that a small percentage actually of my bear baits actually have cell service. So I do use some of the cell cameras at the bear baits, but the majority of my bear baits don't have cell cameras on them. I'll give you an advance notice that I'm actually working on a video that should come out here in the next month or two about cell cameras, about solar cameras, about settings and bear baits, and using them for both deer and bear. Like if you're what settings are good if you're putting it on a trail, what settings are good if you're putting it on a bear bait, or if you're setting a camera on a scrape or a food plot or a corn pile or whatever. So I'm going to give you a bunch of information about that in an upcoming video here that I've just been working on and compiling footage for that, so watch for it. Okay, very interesting question right here. My father hunted most of his life in plaid woolens and says that if you don't move, you do not need camouflage. He laughs about modern clothing, but I see you're serious about your camo. Would you mind explaining what you take on a bear hunt to Canada and why you choose the items of clothing that you choose? First of all, I would like to say that I believe your dad's partially right. And that is that it's really, really important to be still, and bears and deer both are really good at picking up movement, and if you're very careful not to move, you're going to have an advantage. But the other side of that is, man, there's some amazing camouflage clothing these days, and man, I'm never going to discount wool, but some of the stuff we have nowadays is really, really fantastic. And we also know more about a bear's eye and a deer's eye than we ever used to, and camouflage has been built around what we know about what bears can see and what deer can see. So not moving is one of the components, but it's only one of the components. Blending in while sitting still is really important. You got to wear something, so you might as well wear the best clothing that you can afford. I really believe that the Tarnan pattern from Huntworth is the best pattern for bear hunters because of the colors and the patterns and the types of terrain and the trees that we sit in. But I also think that their clothing is super high quality at a price basically for the weekend warrior. The really high-end camo like the Kuiu and the Sitka and some of this stuff that's, I mean, it costs as much as a car to outfit yourself with a dozen pieces of that stuff. Huntworth is, I believe, as good a quality as that, and there's something about being comfortable and be able to pull the certain layers on and things like that when you need to. I want the best quality clothing that I can get for the money that I can afford, and on top of that, what I believe is really good camouflage. So that's why I'm promoting Huntworth clothing on this channel all the time, and that's why I give my followers a discount. So I guess I'll do the 20-second commercial right here about Huntworth, because I have an offer for you. If you go to huntworthgear.com and you order some clothing and you use the code BBB-20, you will get 20% off whatever you order, and I'll get a small kickback, which is one of the things that helps this channel grow. So if you're looking for camouflage clothing, if you're looking for comfortable hunting clothing, that's where you get it. Okay, number 5, bear bait has gotten so expensive, yet you have said that it's important not to run out of bait. I just can't put hundreds of dollars of bait into getting one bear. Is there a way I can meter how much they can eat at a time? Man, this is getting to be a real issue for a lot of people as the price of good quality bait keeps going up. I mean, it's hard to beat a good quality trail mix, but man, oh man, you know, if you get 2 or 3 or 5 bears on your bait, geez, they can go through a lot of bait. Which is why that I've gone to the barrels, and some of them have smallish holes in them, so the bears have to just sit there and work at it. There's several advantages to having a bear that has to stay at the bait and work at getting some of the bait out. First of all, anytime you have interaction among bears at the bait site, that's good, because they're always kind of in their mind who's there, what's going on, they're interacting. They're very social animals, and so the longer they're at the bait, you're increasing the odds that more bears are going to be interacting with each other, which makes your bait site more effective. Now, if you can't use a barrel, you just have to bait as often as you have to make sure there's bait there. Like in some states, you're limited to the amount of bait that you can put out. And like in Wisconsin, you can put out 10 gallons at a time. It might be gone within a few hours, so you just got to go bait again the next day, and you have to visit the bait every day. It's worth it. I like to minimize the amount of intrusion and human scent that I'm putting at the bait, but it's more important to me to make sure that every time they come, they get something good to eat. So that's the trade-off that you have, is just do whatever you can that's legal to make sure that there's always bait there when a bear comes. Would you choose May or June for a spring Canadian hunt? I have a chance to hunt New Brunswick, and it's mid-June. Is the rut over at that time? Are you concerned that bears have been pressured by the hunts in May and early June? So if you got a good outfitter, that's not a big issue. You should have plenty of bears on the baits, and there's still a lot of times you have bears that just find the baits as the season goes on. So I'm not really concerned about having a mid-June hunt that most of the bears are going to be shot, because that's generally not the case. And regarding the rut, mid-June is actually basically the peak of the rut. So that's a really good time to be in the stand. And also the bears are more likely in mid-June to be coming to the bait during daylight hours, because there's more leaves on the trees. They feel more comfortable moving about. The cover's thicker than it is in May in Canada, where there's maybe just buds on the trees and there's not thick leaves and covers. So in June, you're more likely to have bears moving about more into daylight. So mid-June is, yes, a very good time to hunt in Canada. I have a bait that's been successful for a few years in a row, but I'm thinking about placing it about 100 yards away, so it would be a more comfortable approach to unwilling bears or mature males. Is it a good idea to slightly change a bait site location when it's been established for years, or would that throw things off? And I'll tell you what, 100 yards can make a fair bait into a great bait. And 100 yards is nothing for bears to find your bait. So if you've got a bait that's established and it's a good bait, but all of a sudden you see a spot over there and it looks like it'd be even better, move it. I mean, why wait? The bears are going to find it. I can give you an example of a case where I had trouble getting mature bears on a bait, and I didn't really understand why. And then I realized that they really didn't have a corridor of thick cover that they could feel comfortable moving towards the bait in the daylight. And I literally moved that bait 50 yards into an area that gave them a place where they can come around the end of a beaver pond and cross the beaver dam, and we killed multiple bears, and we had more daylight activity than we ever did just 50 yards away. So if you feel confident that there's a better location 100 yards away, what are you waiting for, man? Get the bait over there. All right, question number 8. What is the main thing that drives you to do these YouTube videos if it isn't money? You spend a lot of time and effort doing this, there must be some motivation. That's a really good question, because I make some money on this YouTube channel, not a lot. I feel like it's worth doing, and it provides me with a lot of opportunities in other ways, so it's not just the money. I did a whole video on the amount of sponsor money and the amount of YouTube AdSense revenue that I get and so forth, so you kind of know how much money I make. And if I sat down and figured it out, it probably would come out to less than $10 an hour, and I probably don't want to do that for that reason. But it does give me some other opportunities where I get invited to go on hunts and make YouTube videos about it and things like that. And so it's not just about the money. I just enjoy interacting with other hunters and people who think like I do and are passionate about the things that I'm passionate about. And also I do get a lot of pleasure out of helping people, and I get so many people who will send me a picture that says, hey, I used your baiting strategy, I chose my location based on one of your videos, and here I got this great bear. I'm super grateful. And if I had to point to the one main reason why I keep doing this, that's probably it, is the feedback that I get, that I know that I'm helping people. All right, coming up the end of next week, I'm actually going to Ontario already to get for a bear hunt up there, so start watching for the Ontario vlogs. That'll be coming up, and we'll see you then.